Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. We're spending some more time in the Berkshires today, where we'll talk with Ed Bride, president of Berkshires Jazz, about the Pittsfield City Jazz Festival.
And on the way to the Berkshires, we'll hit Kosinski Farm in Westfield, where an intergenerational family of scientists come farmers plant, and while also turning some of the fruits of their labor into wine.
But first, to the movies.
So we're in Great Barrington, and I am at the Triplex Cinema, which has had a whole whirlwind year of reopening to the public, becoming community-focused, and I am here with Ben Elliot, the creative director. That's even better. Executive directors oversee the whole thing, but like creative directors have a lot more input on what you're actually going to see in that building. Yeah. How has it been for this past year?
The word I keep coming back to is whirlwind, I think. Does
that include the construction that's currently going on in your lobby?
That's nothing compared to kind of, what we've been through over the last few months. That was nothing. Both our main theaters were empty at one point. One of them still is, but the other one we've rebuilt. When I first came on, we didn't even own this building that we're in right now, and there was a question of whether or not we would. So we got the building. We went through the work to fix it up and to bring it back. Reopened in November, and then it has just been going since. We started with some new releases, but we've been bringing back, rep titles, family series. We've had special events. We had Joan Baez come to the theater a few weeks ago. We have Arlo Guthrie coming in a few weeks from now. So it's just, it's finally, I feel like we are understanding exactly everything that it takes to run this theater now. It took this much time just to kind of get here, and now I'm just really excited about the future for it. So, yeah.
You're from around here. What was it like in the before stages? You'd come to the Triplex. You know what? We're going to settle this because I continually say Triplex because phonetics, and other people keep saying Triplex. Is there a right way that I should be saying it if I'm wrong?
So kind of going to the question that I think you're leading to, like I grew up here. I was 9 years old when this theater opened. Locally, we call it Triplex.
Okay.
But you were not alone in calling it the Triplex, and I've come to peace with it. And it's really, I think it's a personal choice. There's the Meyerowitz stories, the Noah Baumbach movie, and Noah's father lived here, so a lot of it was actually kind of set in Great Barrington, and they mentioned the Triplex in it, but Dustin Hoffman's character pronounces it Triplex. So it's just like, they're both okay. I don't want to divide us anymore. Either's fine.
You sound so resigned saying that, so I'll just try to be better about saying Triplex and not think about how it looks on the page. To that point, when you were younger, what was it like being in this theater?
This theater had a huge impact on me as an indoor kid. Having a place to be indoors but outside of my house, that was really important. I lived I grew up on the hill, so I could just walk to this theater, and I would come here almost every weekend. The movies that I really remember seeing here, I got to see, Peter Almodovar movies here, Paul Thomas Anderson movies, re-releases of the Battle of Algiers, just stuff that had a huge impact on me. So having that as a resource as a teenager, just to have that down the street was incredible. That was a big part of coming onto this project, of being able to kind of preserve this as a resource. I think movies are such an amazing window into the wider world, especially for youth. And so having a diverse slate of different voices is just so crucial. That was really the thing that set the Triplex apart in the early days, and I think that's been a really, a big part of our mission to kind of get back to that core, kind of having such a great diverse slate of programming.
We're here in Great Barrington at the Triplex Cinemas. I'm working on it with creative manager Ben Elliot. In the time between then, I'm going to make an assumption that you weren't here the whole time. What did you do in your years after Great Barrington regarding film, and what brought you back here to the Triplex?
Oh, boy. So, yeah, I went to school. I went to Columbia College, Chicago. So I was out in Chicago for a while, New York, and then back to Chicago. I went to film school largely because, I had something like the Triplex in my life to inspire me. I used my screenwriting and critical studies degree to then get into a marketing career, to actually find a way to get paid for writing. But it all kind of worked out, because then I moved home 3 years ago now, after I had my daughter. My wife's from the area too. We wanted to come back it made a lot of sense, and then they were looking for someone to kind of help. I was the first employee here, in this new triplex, and just to kind of have someone full time to help, lead the project and to help things move along. And so I got to use my film background as well as my marketing background, and it's awful. The timing worked out perfectly, and I'm thrilled because, like I said, this theater means so much to me. So.
I don't think I realized when we did our show at the Norman Rockwell Museum how recently you had actually opened to the public, but you'd been doing other events in tandem the whole while before this was open. Are those continuing to happen now that the space is available and open to the public?
We're still kind of figuring out exactly the mix of it, right? It's everything, even with that live event, we really want it to be focused on movies, The way we've always thought about this, the way the triplex kind of sits, the Berkshires is such an amazing community for the arts, right? We have Tanglewood, Jacob's Pillow, Norman Rockwell Museum, just all within 15 minutes of each other. We want the triplex to kind of be what those institutions are for their mediums. We want that to be for the movies. We kind of want to really have a place where we're having regular conversations about the art of filmmaking. Everything we do, we're trying in the programming to really make sure that it's focused on that conversation about movies right now. So whether or not we'll do more live programming, that's still to be kind of figured out. But the mission is really just to focus on movies. That might not just be something as simple as a movie on screen. Like, we want to find ways to make it interactive and engaging, but we also really want it to be focused on celebrating movies.
I'm with creative manager Ben Elliot at the Triplex Theater in Great Barrington. Now that this is up and running, let's talk about some of your current and upcoming programming, because it looks really, really cool. And some of those live elements that you had in the Bring Back the Movies programming is going to stay in, like talkbacks and folks that you're bringing in for the movies that they happen to be in. Yeah. We just talked with Karen Allen last week and had a chance to speak with her about her showing on the 21st of her movie, A Stage of Twilight. But there seems to be a wealth of folks involved in the film industry nearby who can come in and talk about those. Can you speak to having community engagement in that way as an important part of your programming, especially for a small theater?
Yeah, that's part of what makes us so unique, and is so exciting about this theater, is that on paper, we are a very small, sleepy town. But we have such an amazing community of people who have worked on all of these different projects. Incredibly talented actors and directors and people, who just work throughout the industry who, for whatever reason, have decided to come here. And ever since we kind of have become this community-focused theater, they've reached out and we've been able to, ask, and they've been very receptive to come. And we were like, great. Which is always surprising when someone says yes. It's just like, wow, okay, great. But no, it's just, there's such enthusiasm for this theater. Yeah, we've been so lucky. Karen, David Rashi, who was doing a screening of In the Loop, and then we've got Scott Cohen, a fantastic actor who's coming to do a screening of his new film, The Feeling That the Time for Doing Something Has Passed.
You said everyone would have a fun time.
And this is a fun time.
It's supposed to be a really excellent film.
I got a whole name wrong.
I apologize to the filmmakers and to Scott if I messed up on that. We're doing this Berkshires at the Counterculture series right now, celebrating films that were shot in Great Barrington and the surrounding towns in the 60s and 70s that kind of touch on counterculture themes. One of the starting points for that series was obviously Alice's Restaurant, and we were lucky enough just to reach out to Harlow Guthrie, and he said, yes, I would like to come. And, he's coming with Matt Penn, the son of Arthur Penn, who directed the film, and they'll be having a conversation about it. Using this theater as a way to highlight how amazing this community is just kind of one of my favorite parts of what we do here, because I think it can really be easy to, in the day-to-day, forget just how much exciting history and the amazing people that we have here. The programming that we're hoping to do this year, our focus is on kind of highlighting the film history of the Berkshires. And so starting with this series, it was taking a look at the films that were filmed here, and there is a good collection of, kind of really an interesting slate of movies that were filmed on location here and continue to be filmed here. We have a really thriving independent film community, as well as the occasional big Hollywood project that comes through town. Yeah, it's as well as, one of the things that we're hoping to do later this summer is a retrospective on both the picks and the pans of Pauline Kael, the film critic who lived in Great Barrington. We're also hoping to do a retrospective on Douglas Trumbull, the special effects pioneer who lived in the Berkshires as well. There was a whole kind of cottage industry of VFX houses here in the Berkshires that did some amazing work. We've done the first Matrix, What Dreams May Come. So it's, there's a lot to celebrate of the history of the Berkshires and films.
Coming up, a quick tour around the recently reopened Triplex Cinemas in Great Barrington with creative director Ben Elliot.
Definitely not creative manager, which I kept calling him Sorry Ben. And later, music in the mountains with the Pittsfield Jazz Festival.
Plus bread and wine and roses with the women of Kosinski Farm in Westfield.
Chalking it up to nerves. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Do you want to see the theater? It's actually kind of cool, the empty theater. It has part of the original. So this lot was in the 60s and 70s.
It's all cordoned off.
Yeah. In the 60s and 70s, it was a bowling alley.
Oh, whoa!
A roller rink. And so this wall is actually part of the original, that construction. Then that closed. This parking lot was a lumber mill. And so this building got kind of made part of the lumber mill. And the lumber yard then burned down and was kind of abandoned. And so this was graffiti that we believe was done in the late 80s and early 90s when the site was kind of abandoned. People would sneak in and tag it. And then this was just when they built the theater, this was just had fabric over it. This was just the wall of the theater that you were sitting next to for 25 years. We took it down. It was in here and in Theater 1 as well, and no one had any idea this was here. So we've been trying to preserve it and take photos. Obviously we have to put up actual soundproofing.
What a cool relic!
A little bit of history. So that theater that we were just in, that's the original design. Theater 1 over here is kind of halfway to proof of concept. So this theater, there was water damage in both of them, so we had to, this looked like that as well. This was also a shell. So what we did was we, put up, our designer has, our new color scheme, we made the acoustics much better in this room. This is all new paneling and the ceiling and the walls as well, new lighting elements on the side. But as you can see, these are still the original seats that we just kind of brought back and put here. So that's going to be something that we'll be raising money for this summer too. Just we know the chairs that we want. It's now just kind of raising the money, and so, but giving people the opportunity to donate and actually, buy a chair that will go into the theater is something that we'll be having up soon.
Cool.
Yeah. And yeah, we've been doing a film history series with the local community college has been using the space, and that's just all the different ways that we just want to try to make it open to the community. We're hoping to do have a drop-in day with our local youth group, and just. It's a space, and just.
That's great. If there is an organization out there that's we want to do something that's in our wheelhouse to collaborate with you, do they just email you and find out?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That they have films and they want to bring people in to do panels after, and that's something we're absolutely excited to partner with different groups on.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I can show you, there's something else that's cool too that I can show you upstairs.
Yeah.
Pauline, before she kind of got her start in film criticism, she was working at one of the first repertory movie theaters in San Francisco, where they would get kind of older prints in a lot of foreign movies, but they would do custom posters for them.
Oh, that's so cool.
So we have kind of part of that collection of posters that they commissioned for studio theater in Berkeley.
The Mikado in color, no less.
Yeah.
I was wondering what these were from downstairs in the lobby.
We're so thrilled to have this here. It's just, they're so beautiful. It's such an interesting relic. There's film history, and then the history of film exhibition in America too is its own story, right? And it's just this is a really interesting part of the history of art house cinemas. So just having these here is really meaningful.
And then you have a theater upstairs?
Yes.
Way upstairs?
Yep. So yeah, this 2006 this opened. So this was originally like an art gallery space that opened up onto Railroad Street, but they converted it into a fourth theater. And we have a stage up here as well. I actually years ago used to help produce like live programming up here. That was the first thing I ever did at the theater. It's the newest theater, so it's not getting the most work at the moment. We're focusing downstairs on the older theaters first.
It's okay. It's like when things are going on with one of your other children, so the children that are fine get a little less attention.
Yep, exactly.
You'll be fine, middle child's theater way up the stairs.
You can feed yourself, right? Yeah, you got it.
We're with Ben Elliot, who's creative manager of the Triplex Cinemas here in Great Barrington. What are some of the other things that you have planned for the rest of the year?
I mean, every day feels like we're coming up with a different idea. One of the things we're really trying to do is build out our partnership with the community and different nonprofit organizations. Film can be such a powerful way to highlight societal issues, to bring in special screenings with different groups, have panel conversations. We think of this theater as a community hub, and that's a way that we really want to build that relationship. We're working on a whole slate of programming for Pride throughout June. We're hoping to do some kind of fun late night screenings too, just because we want there to be joy in the celebration of Pride, obviously. We have our special programming, which we love so much, but we're also a movie theater. Like, we're showing new releases, and that is a big part of this job as well, of just being a small theater. And for us, that we kind of live in between. We do art house programming as well as major releases. Those major releases often come with terms from the studios, and so that can be the juggling act, right, of just like, we really think it's important to provide these kind of bigger titles, that these are the movies that people want to see, as well as the smaller stuff that they might just want to discover. So it's having that in hand, but having the space to kind of juggle that. That's the challenge of running a small theater. Of just, most of these studios work with chains, that just have the space to take on these movies forever and ever and ever. And so for a smaller movie theater to take on a big title, it can be dictated how long you have to have it, how many screens you have to have it on, and sometimes a lot of theaters just can't. Being able to provide everything that we want to provide right now, especially since we are down a screen, we're still fundraising to bring back our second largest theater. It can be a little bit of a struggle to do everything that we want to do. So that's part of the challenge of this position right now.
Do you find that the public is responding equally to the art house pictures and the large studio pictures?
It's interesting. The movies that we consider triplex movies, I think, tend to be these little gems, that like Wicked Little Letters that's playing right now with Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley. Like, I think that's a classic triplex movie. We opened up with The Holdovers, which shot in Western Mass, which is a great fit for us to kind of open it, but I think that really, was kind of a connection. So I think our audience really loves stories about people, imperfect people, and all of their little working out relationships. I think those stories really connect with the audience here in Great Barrington. But that being said, we still play Dune, and people came to see Dune because Dune's awesome, Yeah. I walked out of that movie and I was just like, there's a lot of Dune.
So the Triplex is in its infancy and coming back to the public. What are some things you want to bring that you'd like to be able to do in this first real year of being open and in years to come?
Oh, boy. Right now we're open 5 days a week. The hope is that by summer we'll be back to 7. And with doing that we can kind of expand, have an open caption night, bring in more foreign language programming, especially for our Spanish-speaking community. Late night screenings is something I'm really hoping to get up this summer, of kind of doing more genre fare. And one of the things that can be really frustrating living out here in a small rural town is that things do tend to close early, especially since the pandemic. And so I think just providing something for people to do in downtown Great Barrington is really important, even kind of past 9 p.m. That's a hope. We're also kind of did some family series in the mornings. We're really hoping to continue doing that. So just to be as active as possible. We have an amazing restaurant that's about to open up called Juju's. They'll be connected to our lobby. And so the hope is to really by, the end of the summer, I think, to really kind of make this building feel like a real community space where, even if you're not necessarily coming for a movie, you still want to come spend time here, and we'll be open because we're right in the center of Great Barrington. There's not that much public space down here, so it's just like we really want the community to feel welcome here. So that's the big goal.
And then you mentioned that your second largest screen is currently not open. You're raising funds to get it back online. If people would like to help with that, how do they do that?
Oh boy, there's 3 ways. One, you can donate. Go to the triplex.org, and there is a button at the top of the website that says donate, and you can do that there. If you are local enough that you want to come on the regular, being a member here, that's the best way, in my opinion, because you get so much out of it. You get discounted tickets, special events, early access. And then the third one is easy. Just come to the movies. Just come on down. There's a lot of good movies coming out, so some of them are going to be weird. We've got Sasquatch Sunset coming out on Friday, which is a movie about big feet, a group of Bigfoot, which I assume you say big feet.
It would be weird if you said Bigfoots, but we'll take it too. Just like the triplex, triplex divide.
Yeah. Something every week is the goal. There's just so many movies out there that are worth celebrating, and we want to have them. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, or sign up for our newsletter. You can find out what's going on, but we should always have something up that's worth seeing.
Ben Elliot, creative manager at the Triplex Cinemas, thank you so much for taking time out to talk with me, but I got to ask you a hard question.
Yep.
Since the Triplex has opened, what's been your favorite thing you've seen here?
All right, can I tell you my terrible secret?
Sure.
So I work 9 to 5, and I have a 3-year-old. The only thing that I've seen is Dune.
I see possible futures all at once. And in so many futures, our enemies prevail. But I do see a way. There is a narrow way through.
Dune's your favorite, is what you're saying.
My favorite, yeah.
That's still a good answer. It's a great movie.
I got to watch Wonka on a plane the other day, which we technically played here, but I didn't see when it played here. So,
Here's hoping you get some time to go to the movies, Ben Elliot.
yeah.
I also love Dune. Now we'll head north from Great Barrington to where the Pittsfield Jazz Festival is happening pretty much as we speak. We'll talk with the president of Berkshire Jazz, Ed Bride.
And later, on the way back to the valley, a pit stop in Westfield to introduce you to the Kosinski Farm and Farm Stand.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. Ed Bride, last time we talked about the Pittsfield City Jazz Festival, you came to us in Springfield, but now we came to you in the Berkshires.
Welcome to the Berkshires. Welcome home.
It is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
It does feel like...
It's so nice here. It's just so long to get here.
Yeah, but once you're here, it feels like it's magic.
I know,
Great
right?
I want you to
Barrington, I'm in
stay.
Lennox.
Yeah, I want you to stay.
There's the Red Lion Inn. That's how, every time I come by, it's like a little thrill. As is the Pittsfield City Jazz Festival. It's already begun. A 10-day-long affair.
Yep.
And tonight, there is something exciting happening. Tell us what's happening.
Yeah, we've got our Jazz Prodigy concert tonight at the Berkshire Athenaeum. It's a free concert, as most of our events are. And this is where we'll get a chance to introduce 2 young musicians who have, in this case 2, usually 1, who have never recorded commercially. And in this case, who have never appeared together before on the same stage. These are young fellows who were sent to us by the Pittsfield Jazz Camp, sort of like talent scouts. I mean, a lot of great young musicians go there to learn from the masters. So they've been sort of our farm system. Or, I should say they've been recruiting talent for us.
You're like the Woo Sox of jazz.
I was going to say they're your farm league team.
The Portland Sea Dogs of jazz.
But some very important people have come out of that jazz camp, including Emmett Cohen from a few years back. And so they had 2 young musicians, a piano player and an alto sax player. And they said, we don't really know which one to recommend. They each have such great stuff going for them. And so we decided to bring them both in. So they've both been to the jazz camp, but they've never played at the same time on the same stage. This is Jasper Zimmerman and Zach Catalano. And they'll be playing with our local rhythm section, Pete Tuoigo on bass and Connor Meehan on drums. They've yet to meet.
Right, so is it all? Are they going to rehearse it all beforehand, or you're going to watch it live rehearse?
They'll have a run through in the afternoon, and a couple of original tunes. So you could send a set list, but when you've written some originals, until you've actually gone through them, you haven't.
Right.
So that'll be a special occasion tonight, 7 o'clock at the Berkshire Athenaeum.
The pile of charts and hope.
It's jazz, you can fake it, and that's the point.
If they're good enough musicians, the audience won't even know.
As long as you've got basic charts, yeah, you can fake it.
They call it a fake book sometimes.
Yeah.
too.
Exactly right.
Exactly.
Well, one of the names of those fake books is called The Real Fake Book.
Yeah, right.
So they're masters of oxymorons.
Yeah.
This is the event that was the first one that Berkshire's Jazz produced. This is the first stroll that they started years back, correct?
Right. We started a thing on our second jazz festival, actually our first one. It split into 2 weekends after the first couple of years, because the first year we did it, we had 2 concerts. Well, that's a festival, right? 2 events, it's a festival. and the young musician came to me and said, we could put some of our local musicians in the clubs and the restaurants before the festival. And it really did create a festive air. And so there were places all over town that had local musicians. And then after about 2 or 3 years, the restaurants started complaining. So, you're taking the people out of our place to go to your ticketed concerts. We want them to stick around for dessert or have a drink. And so we split it into 2 weekends, and that was birthed to the Jazz Crawl. So that on the first weekend, we have jazz all over town, and then the second weekend, we have the headline concerts. And so the Jazz Crawl was this last weekend here in Pittsfield, and then this weekend coming up will be the headline concerts.
Tell us about those. What's exciting? And we're speaking with Ed Bride from the Berkshire Jazz Festival.
Yeah, so we have 2 very special piano players this year. Brandon Goldberg, who by now is 18 years old, and he's a veteran. He played Newport when he was 12. He's played just about all of the important jazz festivals in the world, and he's on tour with a brand new CD recorded live at Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola at Lincoln Center. And he'll be playing much of that material Friday night at the Common Room at Zion Lutheran Church on First Street. It's a beautiful room, and it's acoustically just stunning. So it'll be great to have Brandon there with his trio on Friday night. And then on Saturday comes Marcus Roberts, a master. He's been in the business for 40 years, right? Toured with Wynton Marsalis. That's where I first saw him in 1984 or 85, I guess it was. And so he's bringing his trio on April 27th, Saturday, to the Colonial Theater. And his performance is quite special. About 10 years ago, he got a commission from Chamber Music America to compose a 12-movement suite that was like an anthology of jazz styles, he called it, from rags to rhythm. And so he's going to be performing that here on Saturday. And in tipping a hat to Duke Ellington, whose 125th birthday will be next Monday, April 29th, he's going to open his set with some Ellingtonia. And so we're calling his performance From Rags to Rhythm to Duke.
That's so cool.
It's cool to try to go through a musical journey through history, through all these incarnations of jazz.
And one other thing about that is that April is known nationally as Jazz Appreciation Month. This is an initiative of the Smithsonian Institution from 2001, I guess it was, and sanctioned by Congress in 2009. So the acronym for Jazz Appreciation Month, JAM, J-A-M, jam. So the whole thing is a jam, right?
And maybe you're going to have some toast with jam, because there is one more event, right?
We'll toast that. Well, we have toast or bagels or whatever. Jazz brunches on both Sundays, and the culminating event, the one that's still remaining at Dottie's on North Street, features Jason Ennis and Natalia Bernal, wonderful vocalist and guitar duo, and they have brunch from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with music until noon. So that sort of caps off the whole affair.
There's a lot happening.
Yeah.
And not just with this week, but like Berkshire's Jazz does a lot with music in schools in the Berkshires and art in schools. I was talking with you earlier, and you were mentioning how the program for the festival, the art for it, is done by one of the high schoolers in the area.
Yeah, we have a contest every year. This is our 10th year.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Yeah, right. How about that? And it's all the students in the high schools in Pittsfield are eligible. This year, about 95 participated, and we have local artists who are actual full-time artists who are the judges, and they've selected sort of a modern art piece by a young Pittsfield High School junior named Brooklyn Duck, and her piece is the focus of our poster. It's the cover of our program. It's our newspaper ad. It's our online ad. And she will get 15 minutes of fame by signing posters in the lobby of the Colonial Theater and But
I
that's
think
been
Brooklyn
going on
Duck
for
is
years.
about the coolest name I've
I
ever
know.
heard.
Yeah.
You already have your band name. You should go into music also.
Exactly.
That's
Or,
right.
again, a farm team, a minor league ball team.
Well-
the Brooklyn Ducks.
Oh, that's bad.
I would name a team after her.
I mean, yes.
Well, somebody did. But at any rate, so that contest is really a way to engage more younger people in what we're doing. They listen to jazz during the art lessons at school. They're given no advice on what to create other than paint something that is your concept of jazz. The result, let's show it up in front of the microphone. So
Yeah,
people
there.
can
You
see
see
right?
it,
Yes,
everybody? Yeah. It's a guitar with some piano keyboard and like a saxophone player and a singer
and a
couple-
giant guitar on the side.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So we've had some wonderful pieces over the course of the years, and it sort of ties in with some of the other things we do in the school, as you mentioned, that we each year send a group called the Andy Kelly's Jazz Ambassadors into the schools to talk about jazz, concepts of improvisation and group interplay and listening. And every year after that happens, somebody invariably goes up to Andy and says, I want to take music lessons. And so that's so important, the study of music. And it's been researched over and over again that the study of music helps students learning in all subjects, especially the STEM subjects, such as science, technology, engineering, and math. And in fact, the arts are so important to that they've made that STEAM now. They put arts in the middle of it. So
Yeah, I've advocated to call it meats, but people are opposed
You
to
always
that.
get things backwards. At any rate, so I have a favorite little anecdote that I mentioned in an article in the Artful Mind about our work in the schools, is that when Georgia Tech right, instituted a big band program as part of its optional studies areas, they found their graduation rates improving. And the president at that time of Georgia Tech wasn't really ready to say that their study of jazz helped them. He said maybe it has something to do with the type of students we attract. But at any rate, you teach the whole student, you teach the whole brain, which the arts do, and you strengthen the whole brain. And that person, at the time the president of Georgia Tech, went on to be the head of the Smithsonian Institution. So there's something there. And on top of that, they're advertising for an arts director at 6-figure salary.
Whoa.
So there is something there. I swear.
Yeah, you don't have to be a starving artist, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, and bringing it a little bit further east to Springfield, there is the Sci Tech is a school. It's a tech school
Yep.
in Springfield. When
Wonderful,
they
yeah.
instituted a band program there, the historically lowish graduation rates, anyone who was in the band went up into like the 80s, 90% of a graduation rate. It creates a community, first of all, even apart from the music aside. If you're in a band, you have to band together
Right.
and learn. And that developing those connections will potentially keep you in school longer. Not to mention the fact that jazz music, it's math anyway. It's sharpening your mind.
Well, that angle that you picked up about keeping you in school longer is very important, because that's the quality of life that you're going to stay in school if you're enjoying what you're doing there. And okay, so I do have to study, but guess what? It begins to come easier because you learn routine, you learn commitment, you have that community. All of those things are so important in developing a young mind, a young personality, and developing the brain. You strengthen the brain. It's a mantra. Teach the whole student, not just the arms, not just the fingers, not just teach the whole brain.
What's your favorite thing coming up this week at your jazz crawl, sprawl, Ed Bride?
Oh, you're bad. How am I going to pick?
I'm always making people pick favorites, and I'm real bad at it myself.
Maybe
so,
if we
like,
frame it this way: if there's one thing not
You
to be
not to
missed,
want to miss.
which
Yes.
one would you say? Don't miss?
Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday.
There we go.
No, but I will. And I'll tell you why. The Tuesday, the Jazz Prodigy concert is something of a discovery. Most people, I could say that nobody in that audience will have ever heard either of these musicians before. Most people have never heard of them before. They're high school seniors, and they're such outstanding players. And the reason we chose them is because someday we believe they will become a force in jazz. And so this is a really chance to say, I heard you when you were 18 years old.
Yeah.
And that Brandon Goldberg comes back to the Berkshires the last time he played here. The only other time he played here was a year and a half ago, a turnaway crowd at Medford Hall. And a year and a half later now, he's matured. He's got this live CD at Dizzy's. And it's remarkable just the difference in a year and a half. Of course, everybody figures Marcus Roberts is going to be great. So you got those three things, hard to choose.
Well, you can check it all out at berkshiresjazz.org. But if you want the Prodigy thing, you got to act soon because it's happening
right.
tonight.
Right.
Hours from now.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you. Great to see you. Stick around for a while.
Yeah, we love it here.
A couple hours, we got a concert going on.
Up next, over to Kosinski Farm in Westfield, where we'll introduce you to owner Sue Kosinski and her daughter, Elisa Kosinski, who are growing vegetables and fruits and turning some of those fruits into wine and baking some of those fruits into pie.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, homegrown in Hatfield, Massachusetts, and providing energy savings for their customers for over 10 years. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
Time for another Local Hero Spotlight with Phil Corman from CISA, the Local Hero folks, and Sue and Elisa Kosinski from Kosinski Farms in Westfield, and Farm Stand and Fruit Wine.
Hi, I'm Moira Rose, and if you love fruit wine as much as I do, then you'll appreciate the craftsmanship and quality of a local vintner.
Sue and Elisa, you are a grandmother and granddaughter respectively, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so how long have you been involved with the farm, Sue?
We actually started the farm in '83, and then we built the farm stand in 1999, and then we built the winery in 2013.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about this progression. So you were farming first, and then where were you selling all your vegetables without the farm stand?
Everything went to wholesale,
Oh.
and that was one of the factors in actually putting up the farm stand. Going from wholesale to retail, the money went more directly into our pockets.
Yeah.
I hate to say that way, but
No.
it is.
That's why CISA's here, because there's 750,000 people in the 3 counties who want to eat, and if you could sell it to all of us, then why do we have to go wholesale?
It's one of the many realities of farming in general, so like by all means, be very frank about it.
How do you make the margins work?
Right.
So are you doing any wholesale now, or is it all retail at the farm stand?
A good percentage of it, I'm going to say probably up around 70% goes into retail now.
So I'm curious, when did you start the orchard up? Was it right at the beginning, or was there an orchard there on the land?
No, that was actually a dairy farm. The gentleman and his wife that owned it before us had a lot of bad luck in the last 2 years of ownership. And they were looking for a couple that would take over and promise that it would be a farm. And we said we wanted to put an orchard in there. He was thrilled to death.
And did you have to promise to have a granddaughter that wanted to take over for you?
I already had one, so I was pretty sure she'd follow me. No, she's been with me at the store since she was 6 years old, so she knows it better than I do at this point.
And she is Elisa Kosinski, who's the manager, and we're talking with Sue Kosinski from Kosinski Farms and Farm Stand.
Were your parents involved in the farm also? Are they currently involved in the farm, or did it just skip a generation and go straight to you?
Like mustaches, which I believe skip a generation. My dad has a mustache. I don't. Now my son has a mustache. Isn't that weird?
My dad is involved in the farm currently. He takes care of the part of the farm that is on Shaker Road in Westfield. The farm stand and my grandmother's property is on Russellville Road. I'm living on the Feeding Hills property, and I take care of that property. So we each kind of have our own little section of the farm that we're taking care of.
And by take care of, you mean you're farming it? You're like responsible for farming that
I do
part of
run
it?
a pick your own business, strawberry business there. That is my little baby that I started a few years ago.
I'm always amazed when families can work together. Maybe I'm saying more about my family than yours when I say that. But I'm kind of curious, was it strategic to make sure everyone sort of had a little bit of their domain where they could bring their creativity and thought and run it and then, learn how to manage?
I was very fortunate to have chosen a man who considered females equal very quickly. And so when we started our farm, we were partners. I was one of the only females that went to any of the meetings that went on as far as the farming was concerned. And we brought our children immediately into that atmosphere, so it has stayed.
And how does it feel to pick that legacy up from your grandmother there, Elisa?
I mean, she's left a pretty great legacy. Everybody knows her, everybody loves her who comes in, and it's really cool to be able to have my own portion that I'm working on. You know, that was cool. I came out of college and my dad turned to me and said, well, do you want to do something on the farm? And I said, how about strawberries?
Can we take a step back and can you share, like you and your husband both have an academic background. How was that helpful when you became actual farm owners?
Both of us are actually teachers on top of this. So knowing that we could take what we were doing physically in the field into our classrooms. He was a physics teacher, I was a chemistry teacher, and we applied it accordingly.
Keeps you out of the ivory tower into the dirt of the fields, I suppose, right?
Well, I always feel like if you've got a chem degree and you're doing farming, like you have a leg up. I feel like that chemistry would also come in when the winery showed up because fermentation is all chemistry.
Yeah.
But when and how did the winery come about for the farm?
Well, back when we first started harvesting our apples, okay, so that goes back to, 1990 or so, we were looking for a market for our produce. And so the first thought was the farm stand. And then as we went along, we said, we should really make our own wine. We thought about what we had, and we did some investigating to find out what the opportunity might be to start fermenting our different fruits. And so now we're up to 13 or 15 wines that we're making, of which a good percentage of them are coming out of our fields.
Are any of them grapes?
No grapes whatsoever.
So all non-grape fruit wine.
Yes.
The muskmelon goodness to his oak Chardonnay, and the dazzling peach crab apple to his Riesling Rioja.
And the name of the winery is what?
Raven Hollow.
Tell us about that name, because you didn't call it Kosinski Farm wine. You called it a different name.
It actually does have a history. We got the whole family together and said, what should we name this winery now that we're going to have it? And so everybody did a little bit of investigating as to what maybe our name really meant. And it just so happens that Kosinski means black bird.
Aha.
So there was a black birch winery already in our area,
yes.
And we didn't want to step on any toes, so we decided that we would change that a little bit, think of the first black bird we could find, and the crow went by and went, there we go.
The crows don't just have eyes, we also have wings.
We'll use raven, close enough. And it is in a hollow, so the two went together very nicely.
Was it tricky legally to make an alcoholic product as a farm product with wine? I know that there are different licenses for, on-site beer makers and things like that. Was that a tricky process?
We were one of the first ones in our area to try this. We were fortunate at the time that the governor was 100% behind us, came out to see what we were doing.
So last week, the farm stand opened. So if I swing by in the back half of April, beginning of May, what am I going to find?
So right now, the biggest things we have going, unfortunately, there's no fruits or vegetables that we're growing ourselves that are ready at this point. But around the end of May, beginning of June, we'll start having strawberries, asparagus, that sort of thing. But you can find in our greenhouses, they're absolutely loaded with gorgeous Mother's Day hangers, 6-packs for your garden, pretty much anything you want to plant outside. Mother's Day is usually our biggest weekend at this time of year because everyone's looking for that gift for their mom or their grandmother.
Unless they decide their mother or grandmother would rather have a bottle of wine.
Or you could get a bottle of wine.
Or both.
Or if your grandmother owns the farm that you work at, then what do you get her? There's nothing to get her. She already owns it all.
Well, at that point, I'd just put some little sprinkles on top of something.
Personalized.
A little love.
And you do have some baked goods you brought here, too. So are those available at the farm stand as well right now?
Yes, we do have our bakery up and running. We have pies available, brownies, muffins, cupcakes, breads, donuts, the donuts that everyone comes for. We've had a lot of people come in and say, oh my gosh, I've waited all winter for these donuts. And we do have the deli open, so homemade potato salad, ham salad, homemade mac and cheese on the weekends.
That's
So-
her favorite, by the way.
We heard it in her voice.
And in addition, we're going to taste this soon because we've had a bevy of beautiful baked treats in front of us, and I am hungry. But you are still taking signups for your CSA. You do offer a CSA.
So our CSA starts in June. We do signups over the winter. We offer a small share, a large share, and a couple things that are different than a normal CSA. We offer a wine share, so you can try one of the wines every week as an add-on to your CSA. You can also do a bake share add-on, so you could get a pie every week or breads or cookies.
I'll just say this is the time to do it because at CISA we inevitably hear people in end of May saying, I went to try to sign up for a CSA, but they're filled up. So yeah, you got to think a little bit ahead. So now's the time.
We're speaking with Sue Kosinski and Elisa Kosinski from Kosinski Farms in Westfield. Is it true that you're using corn to a great effect to try to
Absolutely.
run the farm? Tell us about what you're doing with corn.
Well, having the background of a chemistry teacher, we wanted to make sure that we were in compliance with nature. We believe that if we can grow something and then use that as a fuel, we're in the cycle. And we're trying to make our place as sustainable as possible. So anyway, I've got to say, at least 15 years, I think more, we have been using corn stoves. My son, her father, actually grows the corn. He has about 400 acres of field corn, and it goes out for feed and it goes out for fuel. And so anyway, I have my own special corn that comes in, no charge, so it's very inexpensive. And we burn that at night. They're very efficient.
Does it smell like popcorn all the time?
It does. It does. You get immune to it after a while. But the neighbors were they'd come over when we first started doing this, and they would say, is there something burning in there? And they said, it smells like popcorn. And we were like, yeah. It's corn.
And can you give us a peach update since everyone in New England was so sad last year?
Well, right now they're in full bloom. They're absolutely beautiful. But last time I said that, we lost the whole crop. So they're looking good right now. Most years, if you have had a bad year the year before and your production was down, nature seems to come in and say, okay, we've got to make up for that. So I can't even explain how pink those trees are right now. And I will tell you, yes, last year was a really bad year for peaches. The only peach that we actually harvested, I ate. So
membership has its privileges.
I was going to say it's like benefits for being the matriarch of the farm.
But you had to hide away when you did it because otherwise 2 million people in New England would have rushed to your house.
I watched that peach every day. And then my husband came home and he said, where's the peach? And I'm like, oh, it was so good.
Sue Kosinski and Elisa Kosinski from Kosinski Farms in Westfield. You want to try that before we go?
Yes.
All right.
Pumpkin.
Elisa's going to taste test it.
I mean, pumpkin muffins.
You can find out about all of our local heroes at buylocalfood.org. Your assessment of the pumpkin muffin?
Fantastic texture and flavor. Sometimes it's too much in one direction or the other, but like this is really good.
It's like Cupcake Wars over here.
For it.
A special guest update from our Friday guests, your co-author Holly Black and Tony DiTerlizzi from the Spiderwick Chronicles, the Roku channel where their show is housed, tweeted out on Twitter just moments ago, magic is real. The Spiderwick Chronicles had the most watched debut of any on-demand title ever on the Roku channel. So congratulations to our friends and those fabulous 413 creators,
Even though I still
Tony
missed
and Holly.
It, like Roku City being all spider-wicked out, it just somehow
I don't
did
understand
not.
how that happened.
Look, I don't get it.
One of the comments on the Roku's tweet is somebody complaining that the Spiderwick Chronicles, quote, spammed the heck out of my home screen for a week.
Yeah, no.
And I was in the Polish bar, the St. Casimir Society, on Saturday, in the middle of the day, and they had Roku on there and was totally taken over
and I was
by
definitely
Spiderwick.
watching things on Roku, like, all weekend long.
I went right home and
I saw nothing.
I spent like half an hour in Roku City and PAX. My
Might just be
10-year-old
that
and I
mine's
went
broken.
one by one through all the things. Oh, that's a Spiderwick thing. And then all of a sudden, everything
on the Roku app went like it was in deep dark in the forest. And I'm 6 episodes into the 8-episode series, and I absolutely love it. Even if I didn't know them and had never read the books, I think it's great.
Yes. It's a good thing to involve in.
Yeah, so check it out if you'd like, and you'll know you're supporting local creators here in the 413.
Indeed.
Tomorrow on the Fabulous 413, Divulging the Secrets We Keep, a new podcast from NEPM, written and produced by our own Karen Brown.
And the new developments at Gateway City Arts in Holyoke. They've just become the new home for Lighthouse, an alternative schooling program, and we'll talk with all the folks involved in making that changeover happen.
Plus, word nerd Emily Brewster, resident wordster from Merriam-Webster, our fair dictionary in Springfield, with a listener question addressing homophones, homonyms, and homographs.
They're all kind of technically the same thing, but we'll get into that with her. And again, apologies to Ben Elliot, who I continually call creative manager, even though he's creative director over at the Triplex.
I'm sure he's okay with it. Don't be so hard on yourself.
I just feel bad about it. Anyhow, he's a wonderful person. Go out and see the movies there if you have the time and opportunity to do so. Thanks to the Fabulous 413 tech team for always making everything awesome. I'm Khalees Smith.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413 for more wonderful things in the Fabulous 413.